Today I want to talk about a very important topic, and that is the history of mixing. How did they mix before? How did we come to mix the way we do it today? All those questions we're going to answer in this video. Here we go. In the 1950s, there were no mixing engineers, as recordings were mono and very few microphones were used. Let's also remember old recordings where the person who sings is way in front, the person who plays drums is way in the back, so they would mix it at that point. And that's how they were distributed, but it was very difficult to get definition. Also, before 1955, there was a big problem, and that is that if you wanted to record on top of a track, it was out of sync. That is, when they played back, the new track was already out of sync with the new track. Because of this, Les Paul, yes, the one we all know for the famous Les Paul, and Ross Snyder developed a process called Sel-sync that allowed to record on a track and that everything was perfectly synchronized. You have to imagine this big problem if we today, when we have latency problems, that the recording is not synchronized. Well, we solve it by changing the computer, changing the preferences, changing the interface. Imagine back in the day, you had to do it mechanically. So, thank you Les Paul and Ross Snyder for this great invention. At that time, the basic instrument was the bass. Well, we didn't have as much definition and as many channels as we do today for the drums. A very representative song of that time is Rocket 88. When listening to this song, we can notice that the drums are not defined at all. It sounds like it's out there in the distance. The vocals are clearly understood. Remember that a very important part of the mix is that the vocals are understood. But nevertheless, this song is considered the first rock song ever recorded. Another big breakthrough is that consoles started to have more channels. And more channels means I can plug in more microphones. I can have more definition, but we still have 4 tracks to record. How was it recorded before? Let's say we're the Beatles. We have 1 drum kit, 1 bass, 2 guitars, 3 voices to start with. Then we have different channels. We want to record the drums. We can put 1 mic on the kick drum, 1 mic on the snare, and an overhead. And we're going to record the bass. 4 channels. Everything is recorded. And then on another tape machine, I want to record the guitars. Then everything is recorded on 1 channel. And I have 3 channels left to record, where I could connect 2 guitars and a vocal. Now I want to record more. Then again, the other instruments are mixed in. It's already very difficult to record like that. I think only the engineers of that time know how difficult this could have been. Then whoever was recording was mixing at the same time. There was no way to go backwards. It's like, today our Pro Tools has only 4 channels, and we have to constantly bounce, import, delete the previous channels to have the mix and 3 additional channels, bounce and again, and so on and so forth until we have our song. A decade later, the Beatles released their song Today in the Life, and the quality changes surprisingly. You can already feel the bass drum, the guitars. The bass is much more distinct. The truth is that it is a spectacular song. With the advance of tape machines, we were able to have more channels. We went to 8 channels, 16 channels, 24 channels. Then the bands could record a drum kit with 10 microphones if they wanted to. And so the recording process developed as we know it today, where we record an instrument, maybe the drums, then the bass, then the guitars, then the keyboards and so on, until we get to the lead instruments. The drums started to become the bass instrument because you could mic every part of it. We could hear better the toms, hi-hat, snare drum, everything quite defined. There is the era where the Beatles are finishing their career and Pink Floyd is starting theirs. Songs like Money are a good example of this. Everything is very well defined. They even have this cash register game at the beginning of the song. We already have more channels. There is a part of the song where there is a kind of guitar and drum solo, where the drummer would need a lot of hands to be able to do this. The famous overdubs. This tells us that the musicians started to be more creative in the songs, because by having more channels, they could create new layers. I recommend you to watch the documentary of the album The Dark Side of the Moon. Alan Parsons is in there talking about how they recorded, how they mixed this. It's great if you want to see it. We start the 80s era and there's a very important song. It's called Africa by Toto. You can hear the definition is incredible. Everything sounds perfect. Everything is understood. Everything is super defined. Year 82. Being able to have more channels, to have bigger consoles, will allow us to achieve better productions because the creative process grows exponentially. It follows the Michael Jackson era when they begin to combine MIDI, synthesizers, and begin to experiment with sound. Technology is always advancing very fast. By the end of the 90s, we already have digital systems in the recording studios. We have Pro Tools attached to all the hardware machines in the recording studio. That's why in this era, we can have even more creative mixes. Examples from this time and this year, Frozen by Madonna. This song has an incredible mix because it opens up delays, it opens up reverbs, it opens up the panorama. It has a lot of effects. It sounds spectacular. Now, not only the production is creative, but also the mix is creative. Time goes by, computers become more powerful. And in many studios, the machines that record are computers on hard disks. Some studios did not want to make this change, but we know cases like Sound City, where not to advance with the technology because it leads them to bankruptcy. The mixing process goes from leveling some instruments to being a purely creative process. The songs we hear today have creative processes. The great engineers have creative processes in their mixes because thanks to the machines, thanks to the DAWs, we can do things that in the past they had not even imagined being able to do. And it also makes many engineers go from mixing everything in hardware to mixing everything in software. All this that I have just told you makes me think, if mixing starts to be part of the production process, if a bad mix makes a good song go bad, or doesn't that matter nowadays? If we think about songs from the 50s, there was mixing and they were very successful. But today, if a song is not well mixed, could it be a hit? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so we can grow our community. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care of yourselves.